two things. Look at that picture. You look good. Second thing, I say this a lot when I speak, especially to people in this crowd. I did serve as the board president for way too long, but I will always say to anyone who will listen that if my legacy is only this, it's the greatest legacy that I could give to DASCO, and that is that I was the one who got to officially hire Sarah. Now, you've heard, I am Lydia and Josiah's daddy. I am a semi-famous regional comedian. And I am a professor of family science. So which one are you going to get today? I got a little of all of them. Is that okay? A little of all of them. I love the video that was played at the beginning about needs and being special and what is special, because I hate that term. I hate the term special needs. In fact, in my stand-up routine, I have an entire bit where I talk about Josiah for a little bit, and then I go back and I say something to the extent of, yeah, you know what, I am a father, I've mentioned that, I do have 2 children, I do have one that has special needs, and I have another one who has Down syndrome. And then I go into a nice 5-minute, I don't even know what the right word is, I guess it's a gripe session about the special needs of my 13-year-old daughter. And let me tell you, you have a middle school daughter, you understand special needs way more than raising a child with Down syndrome ever. And I pray for you. It is an honor to be here again to kick off this luncheon with you. I love the energy behind this awareness campaign. I look forward to this holiday every year. And so let me just start by saying Happy World Down Syndrome Day. I got involved with this holiday and specifically with this organization about 10 years ago, when in February of 2013, we found out that our unborn child was a boy, and 10 seconds later, that he had Down syndrome. And roughly 10 seconds after that, we were asked if we would like to terminate pregnancy. It's a lot to process in 30 seconds. Josiah Matthew was born in June of that year. He is amazing. He has blonde hair. He has my hazel eyes. He has his mama's smile. And he has that bonus chromosome. If you don't believe me, just how great he looks. That is Josiah. Josiah changed my life. Since finding out about him, I have traveled a road that has led me deeper and deeper into disability studies. I changed the entire path of my research from fathering to families and disability. Many of you have actually been helping me out this semester and may not even realize that we are in the middle of conducting a study looking at how we as couples cope with raising a child with Down syndrome and the impact that that has on our marriages. You may not know that our marriages are at some of the highest rates of dissolving after our children with Down syndrome are born. And so we want to learn why that is and what can we do to impact each other. So thank you for those of you that have filled out that survey already. If you haven't and would like to be a part of that, let me know. I'll send you the link. What I want to do today is I want to look beyond the individuals of our children. I want to look beyond the individuals of our children, because when we talk about inclusion, we don't need to start with the individual. We know where the individual is at. The individual is right there, like has been said several times already today. The individual is fighting for the seat at the table. The individual is at the table. The individual wants to be noticed, wants to be included, wants to be engaged, and we already know that. So we got to pull the lens back, and we got to look at not the individual, we got to look at systems. I'm a family scientist, so systems are very important to me. I look at how the family system interacts with the systems that it is a part of day in and day out. And so I want to start with this point. Living in disability world, I have come to understand that we have imperfect systems. We have imperfect systems. Take, for example, our social systems. One of the things that I do with my students when I try to illustrate the importance of inclusion in our social systems and belonging is I have them draw a sociogram. If you don't know what a sociogram is, I'm gonna tell you. I hope that you will draw one today. What I would like for you to do, you can do it right now if you have a pen and some scrap paper. I want you to draw 3 concentric circles on that piece of paper. If you're a nerd like me, that means it should end up looking like Captain America's shield. All right? 3 concentric circles. Thanks, Kyle. 3 concentric circles. In the outer circle, I want you to write the names of people that you see and know. In the inner circle, I want you to write people that you know and do things with. And in the very center circle, I want you to write people that you love and care deeply for. When you get home, I want you to do that, because what you're going to find is that most of us will be able to fill out those circles to the tune of about 150 different names. But people with disability, on average, are only able to fill in 25 names, and the vast majority of them are caretakers or service providers. For those with disabilities, that inner circle likely has 4 or fewer names, and research tells us that when that number is less than 4, the person is at risk for what we call social isolation. Even in settings that we espouse as the most important of social settings, fail when it comes to including our children. The most common place that persons with disabilities report isolation actually occurs in our churches. I am a person of faith, and I got to tell you, this infuriates me. It's not quite in line with the message of love your neighbor, is it? So, why is this important? Well, when we look at this system, we realize it's imperfect. And we need to work to make it better. How about our child welfare system? You're getting Dr. Kern now. People with disabilities are some of the most vulnerable people in our culture. According to the End of Use Project, people with disabilities are victimized at rates 3 times that of those without disabilities. 3 times more likely to experience rape, sexual assault, aggravated assault, and robbery. 3 times more likely to be sexually abused as children. 1.6 times more likely to experience abuse or neglect as children. 1.5 times more likely to experience repeated abuse or neglect as children. Nearly 1.5 million violent crimes against people with disabilities occur every year. And far more than 1.5 million non-traditional acts of victimization. For example, stealing or withholding one's Social Security disability checks, or invalidating or shaming someone. There's a whole movement. There's a whole movement to end use of the R word. Because it is victimizing. Child welfare system is imperfect. How about healthcare? Studies in the American Journal of Public Health have recognized persons with disabilities as a demographic that is both large, over 12% of our population, and largely overlooked as a population for health attention. In fact, in a 2015 study by Cron, Walker, and Correa de Araujo, the following was stated: adults with disabilities are 4 times more likely to report fair or poor health than adults with no disabilities, and 2.5 times more likely to report skipping or delaying health care because of the cost. People with disability have higher rates of chronic disease than the average population, and consistently report higher rates of lack of mobility and physical activity, and are significantly less likely to receive preventative care. More specifically to our population, there are studies that suggest that people with Down syndrome, who may have cognitive, intellectual, or learning disabilities, receive treatment that discriminates within healthcare settings, the very places where they go to receive care. These include things like eligibility issues for access to services, excluding the individual from being able to make their own medical decisions, and denying these individuals basic needs like meals or toileting support. And please do not even get me started on the fact that we can't pass a Marriage Equality Act in our country to protect access to SSI and other disability services for married people with disabilities, so that my friend doesn't have to live in Edmond, Oklahoma, while her husband lives in Louisiana. And how about one final example? Our education system. Our family's been pretty lucky so far. Josiah has been fully included since he was 6 weeks old, first in his child care program, and then at our elementary school at Westfield Elementary in Edmond, Oklahoma. He's had the same expectations as his peers, was expected to behave like them, to learn like them, and from time to time to mess up like them. His bar has been set high, and he hits it more times than he misses. We're now working off his IEP for his 3rd grade year. An IEP that we actually did not sign the first time it was presented to us. We have told our school that anything less than full inclusion in the classroom is unacceptable to us, and we will continue to push for that. Unfortunately, for many families, the simple idea of school inclusion is a battle. Even now, we are being prepared for the change that will occur in middle school. Thankfully, I have a middle schooler right now who's a fierce advocate. I know policy like the ADA and the IDEA make things not only necessary but mandatory. So we need to stop finding loopholes and include our kids. Research study after research study has shown that inclusion in the school classroom is significantly and positively correlated with positive academic outcome, behavioral outcome, and social outcome, not just for the child with disability, but for every single child in the classroom.
That's right.
So I'm going to step on some toes here. Because right now, we live in a state that is finding loopholes. And whether we want to admit it or not, we are moving toward resegregation. You may think that sounds pretty extreme. That can't be true. And I want you to consider the following. We have families right now that are battling school districts because they are not following IDEA guidelines. They're not allowing students to work towards credit and receive services through the age of 21. We have complex and complicated processes for students to access supportive technology. Sometimes it takes as many as 3 failures before it's taken seriously that our child needs a device to help them speak. We are losing teachers at a beyond alarming rate in this state, and the group that we are losing the most are special education teachers. They do not feel valued, they do not feel wanted, and they are leaving for other states. We are failing to fund the very policy that says we must provide supports and services. IDEA has not been fully funded once since its inception in 1975. Funding is supposed to come 40% at the federal level. They funded it at an average of 14% per year and 60% from the state level. We rank number 47 in per pupil spending in the nation. System has to change. So what does all of this mean? How do we promote inclusion? Well, we must continue to advocate by teaching all of those in our social circles that our loved ones are more alike than different. We must challenge our spiritual, educational, and political leaders to see our loved ones as valuable members of society who are contributors. We have to grant equal and easy access to medical care and payment services. We need to ensure that all people are guaranteed at least minimum wage and given equal opportunity to school, work, and recreation. We have to train our mainstream teachers, our special ed teachers, and every administrator to cooperatively put together accommodations first and then modifications if needed. We need to make the process for children to have access to helpful technology much simpler. We need quality aides and therapists within our school systems. We need to continue to advocate for policy that promotes inclusion. It means that we are all being challenged to think inclusion first. Not because it makes us feel good, not because it is required by law, but because it is simply the right thing to do.
Right.
And it works. Thank you.